Hello, everyone. Good evening. And thank you for joining us for our conversation, Networks of Care Can and Should Be Contagious. My name is Solana Chehtman. I'm the Director of Civic Programs here at the Shed, as well as the organizer of our Up Close digital commissioning series. I am a Latina woman with short, black, grayish hair, wearing an electric blue dress and red lipstick. Behind me are a couple of plants and some framed artwork from good artist friends, mostly in dark colors and some primary colors as well, which bring my home office so much joy. I want to start by letting you know that this digital conversation will include live captioning through a certified card or communication access real-time translation provider. So feel free to activate captions by clicking at the bottom right of your Zoom screen. We will also have American Sign Language interpretation. And thank you so much for all of our access workers for being here. Finally, I and the rest of the group will also be providing verbal descriptions of ourselves and any other on-screen materials as things come up. As I said, thanks to our access workers and also to our artists and our disability arts consultants for guiding us in the path to become a truly inclusive and equitable 21st century organization for the arts. If you need anything else to fully participate today, or if you have any questions or comments now or at any point during the event, please let us know by clicking on the Q&A button, also at the bottom right of your screen, or by reaching out to the email members@theshed.org, and we'll try our best to address it. And I believe we've compiled some questions from you all in advance, but feel free to add any extra ones as they come up, and we'll try to get to them within the hour. I just want to let you know also that the event will be recorded, so you will be able to come back to it at a later date as well. I am delighted to be here with you all tonight, sharing space, and most importantly, getting to hear the reflections and exchange between these outstanding artists on the notion of collective care, of community building, of well-being, and why now more than ever, we have so much to keep learning and keep doing. This conversation is taking place as a preview of the artist collaborative piece, Faces and the In-Betweens, which will debut on our website on January 13th and evolve and transform throughout February 11th. And it will be our 12th commission as part of Up Close, a program that was born this past April as a digital platform for artist creativity in the midst of COVID-19. And as a platform has provided space for mourning, for joy, for questioning, for reflection, and we hope to continue doing so in 2021. I'd like to thank a number of our supporters who make Up Close possible: M&T Bank, the Stavros Niarchos Foundation, and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, who have all provided generous support, as well as our own Lizzie and Jonathan Tisch Commissioning Fund and the Shed Commissioners. I also want to thank the Howard Giltman Foundation for providing the Zoom platform that we will be using for this evening's conversation. And lastly, before I introduce our wonderful speakers, I want to welcome and thank very particularly all of our Shed members joining today. Many of you have been with our organization since before we opened in 2019, and you're all so important to us. You make our work happen and possible, and we hope you will enjoy tonight's conversation as well as the future programming that we have in store for you particularly. And now, yes, to our wonderful speakers. We are joined today by our moderator, Kevin Gotkin, who is NYU Visiting Assistant Professor of Media, Culture, and Communication, co-founder of the Disability Arts Task Force, and one of the most knowledgeable and generous with that knowledge people that I've had the privilege of learning from about disability artistry and activism. We are also joined by Ezra and Noah Benus, the New York City-based artists behind Brother Sick, a sibling artistic collaboration on disability justice, illness, and care, as well as educators, curators, and activists. Ezra is currently a shift artist in residence at the Elizabeth Foundation for the Arts project space, and Noah is completing his master's in visual arts education at City College. We're also joined by Yo-Yo Lin, a Taiwanese-American interdisciplinary media artist who explores the possibility of self-knowledge using multimedia and live performance to create what she calls meditative memoryscapes. She was a 2019 Access Artist in Residence at IBEAM and has very, very recently been announced as a member of our new Shed Open Call cohort, with her performance coming up in summer 2022. And we cannot wait to work again with Yo-Yo in that context. We're so excited. And last, but definitely not least, Danilo Machado, a poet, curator, and critic born in Medellin, Colombia, and currently living in Brooklyn. He's a 2020-2021 Poetry Project Emerge Surface B Fellow and the co-founder and co-curator of the chapbook Broadside fundraiser Already Felt, Poems in Revolt and Bounty. And he's also currently working as curatorial assistant at Socrates Culture Park. His most recent exhibition was Support Structures, presented virtually by the 8th floor, and featuring the artists of Art Beyond Sights, Art and Disability Residency. Thank you all so very much for being here tonight with us. I cannot wait, and I'll pass it on to Kevin. I'll see you later. Bye, thanks.
Thank you, Solana. Hello, hello, hello. This is Kevin Gotkin. I am a scruffy white person with short brown hair. I am wearing a black mock turtleneck with a thin silver chain, a dangly gold earring. And I'm using a virtual background. It's an image from Shenandoah National Park in Virginia from a week ago. And it shows a tiny dot that is Saturn on top of another tiny dot that is Jupiter. And they are having a little moment in conjunction tonight. And I think what you'll find tonight, this event, is that accessibility is not something we do at the beginning and then get out of the way, but something that actually generates new forms of aesthetics and new kinds of artistry. So I just want to mention a few of the forms of access here in this Zoom event. So in the bottom of your window, there's a button that says live transcript, where you can find real-time captions. So you'll click that and then click show subtitles if you need those. The view for you is, it's called side-by-side mode. So there's these two vertical lines that separate the video, or actually, when we go into slides in a second, we'll go into that side-by-side view. And if you need the interpreters, you can pin them, but you can also drag that side-by-side view to the left of your screen so that they get larger. We're also going to pause a few times so that our interpreters switch. So I'll just pause us then. And I also just invite you, maybe during those pauses and now, to just get in touch with your own access needs, even if that is getting in touch with a sensation that's happening for you in your body mind right now. The Shed team is incredible with running this event, but if a glitch does occur, we wanted to maybe just offer a little contemplative space for the glitches that seem to always crop up. So let's say something happens that makes us pause. You might just want to think about the moon, which is in its first quarter. That's a one-day event, unlike other phases, and it's waxing. So if we hit a glitch and we need to pause, maybe that's something that we can all contemplate together. So I'm going to share some slides and get us started here. Let's get this. Okay, so it is such an honor to be with these incredible artists. So the first question for all of you is, how did this work that you're going to talk about today, how did it begin? Where did your collaboration start?
Hi, Kevin. This is Ezra speaking. I am one of the two brothers Sick, along with Noah, who will speak in a second. I'm a white Ashkenazi Jewish person living in Brooklyn on Lenape land, and I'm in my bedroom. In back of me is a white wall with some pink and blue artworks, a poster and a painting, and then another gilded framed painting. And right above my left shoulder are some plants and a lamp sitting on a bamboo shelf. And to my right, just in this little corner here, you can see a peak of canvas that I started painting. It's sort of a dark green, and I'm wearing a black turtleneck, as is the attire for tonight. I want to just thank everyone for being here as well. And just to give a little background of how we came to be, we're going to go through these slides. And Noah and I are going to just mention a couple of more recent works from this year that sort of led us to this thinking and give a little background on that. Then Yo-Yo Lin will be sharing some of her work and sort of the ways the things she's been thinking about make its way into this work as well. And Danilo Machado will be talking about some projects that they're working on as well. And then we'll just kind of close with a couple of slides, giving you a very brief preview of still images of sketches of the work that we all will be premiering, called Phases and the In-Betweens, next month. So I will just share very quickly. We're called the Brothers Sick, and we were approached by Solana at the end of the summer to think about work that something new that we can explore during the pandemic through an online format. And as sick and disabled artists, both Noah and I have been thinking around topics and relationships of care and illness for a very long time. We formed Brothers Sick a few years ago after a learning from an artist, Greg Bordowitz, who mentioned, something around an army of people with HIV and AIDS. We need to continue hearing from them throughout, from back when they were an activist to today. And that really stuck with us. And it also goes to it kind of comes out of another moment during the AIDS pandemic, the epidemic, from a Queers Read This poster called a manifesto called An Army of Lovers, Can't Lose. And with that ethos and lineage, it's important for us to share that so many artists who are living now, who have passed, and ancestors that have come before us, made all of this work possible. So that's a big background to the ways Noah and I approach our work as two people living now, looking backwards, looking to the present and the future of what it means to live in illness, as we all do, as we all have, and as we all will continue to be. And
Ezra,
I'll pass it to, yeah.
Sorry, can I just pause for 1 second so our interpreters can switch? All right.
Great. I'm going to pass it to Noah to share the first two works on this slide.
Hi, this is Noah, the other half of Brothers Sick. I am a white Ashkenazi male that looks like Ezra with dark hair, wearing a black turtleneck. I'm in a well-lit room with a white wall and a silver lamp over my left shoulder, or my right shoulder. I'm not sure how the camera situates it on Zoom. The first slide is two images formatted the same with different text on two blue face masks, centered in frame, arranged like a blue equal sign on a pale yellow background. The masks each have a red typed message on the fabric. Masks read, "An army of the sick can't be defeated. To be scared of the sick is to be scared of the living. Networks of care can and should be contagious. Illness finds us all, but care unfortunately does not." So these works came about at the very beginning of our experience in quarantine and the pandemic. It was about a month after kind of New York City started shutting down, we were approached by visual aids to host a web gallery of works from their archive. And as a response, Ezra and I were thinking about what care looks like in private and what care looks like in public, and how that relationship of care is enacted in times of global pandemics. So we were referencing, obviously, the mask, which is something that we know continues to save lives, yet is a contentious subject for some. And we really decided to focus on that as a symbol of what this pandemic, of what care at the simplest form looks like in this pandemic. And so we were approaching a new format of digital works, which was interesting for us, and thinking about broadening the networks of care through virtual galleries or through online art sharing. So I think that was a little, I think on the next slide, Ezra, if you want to describe the other works and how we transitioned from visual aids to shape arts.
Yeah, so Noah and I, thanks Noah, this is Ezra speaking again. Visual Aids is a near and dear arts nonprofit that supports artists with HIV and AIDS, and has an archive of a lot of artists who are working through so many subjects, and I really encourage everyone to go look. Shape Arts is another arts organization that invited Noah and I to respond to this prompt of an exhibition titled "The Future is Loading," with 3 periods after it. Thinking through inviting artists across disability communities, and for all of us to respond to what does a future look like. But for, I think, Noah and I, our future is about a present. And if we can't address the present needs, then there is no future. And what we come to think about in our work is our experiences of moving through time and space as sick and disabled people in this pandemic. So I'm going to speak for Noah as well, just on this, that most of the time we leave our apartments, to go out is to our medical appointments, which are on a calendar. So become this sort of ritualized experience of outing, of receiving care, and also of navigating and negotiating, this sort of medical gaze and the medicalization of experience of that, but also to understand that, we are also quite privileged to access care in this time when care is also, in this world and this country that does not provide equal and equitable care. And so I just want to echo that, like, the ways that we are thinking through all this is from our perspective of the purview that we have literally just in front of us. So the images that we use are from our actual times in the hospital. So they might look like stock photos, but they're actually from these intimate experiences of our personal care regimen. So the 2 slides on here are digital images, and one is an image on the left with a beige background showing 2 IV infusion machines aligned in the center. The one on the left side is upright, and the one on the left side is the one on the right side is mirrored upside down. 2 medication IV drip bags hang on the top loops of the IV pole with curving tubes connecting to the machine. It has a blue screen displaying text, some of which reads "Give care, take care," along with other medicine information. On both the left and the right side of the machine's digital displays are numbers 2020. Red text frames the images of the IV poles, which read, "An army of the sick can't be defeated twice," with black equilateral triangles in each corner, pointing in the clockwise direction of the border text. The image on the right, the digital image on the right, is an image in variants of gray-blue scale, reminiscent of X-ray results, showing a glaring fluorescent room with 5 empty hospital beds and chairs on a diagonal, arranged from the bottom right of the image to the middle left section. The text on top reads, "Networks of care can and should be contagious," and it's layered from the top right to the bottom right of the image in transparent red and gray shaded font. Each bed stall has a numbered plaques from the left to right numbering 8, 9, 10, 11, above the abstract floral pattern curtains that separate each stall. And to reference the ways, we are also looking to emptiness, to fullness, to being in space, sharing space amongst others in a pandemic, in these places of care. I also want to hearken to the symbols that we included in the left image. The black triangles are taken from a group in Britain of disabled activists who we're repurposing the black triangle, which was a symbol that the Nazis identified, had included on clothing for disabled prisoners, and have kind of taken it to become a symbol of disability resistance. And so we wanted to include that in here. And all of this is to share that we are very much looking to others. We want to make work within community, for community, and by community. And the way Noah and I understand, nothing is only from our perspective. And it was really important for us to include other people. So when Solana asked us to create a new piece, of course, we start to think, who do we want to collaborate with on this time? And so then we approached Yo-Yo Lin and Danilo Machado. And I'll pass it to Yo-Yo.
Hi, my name is Yo-Yo Lin. I am an interdisciplinary artist. I'm Taiwanese American. I have newly dyed and cut purple hair right now. I have a earring that is a small moon on this side and a small star on this side, which I'm very excited about. I'm also calling in from Taipei, Taiwan, so it's a bit early for me. And that is also considered Untitled territory. I'm also going to be sharing some of my work with you today. And right now on the screen is a GIF of 3 different circles, each of them filling up in different increments and different portions. So my practice engages with revealing and revaluing of realities that are often unspeakable or rendered invisible. I create openings into these realities in the form of spaces, performances, or tools. So this is a tool I created called the Resilience Journal, and it utilizes soft data tracking as a way of holding space and building language for illness. So in this, I'm tracking 7 different dimensions of my illness, and the dimensions range from chronic pain levels to social pressures to the number of times I ask for help. So this has been a way to understand my illness experience without it being medicalized, and a ritual for me to be present with my chronic illness. And in many ways, it has also become a form of tracking the number of times I ask for and receive care. So it's also been an experiment in seeing the ways in which my illness presents itself in daily life with and in relationship with others. And I think of, processes like these have always been something I've been really interested in, because there's so very limited language when it comes to talking about experiences like illness and pain and trauma. And I think, creating spaces like this in which we can hold these experiences is a form of resistance and is a form of creating rituals. And thinking about how rituals are a way of creating more expansiveness in how we perceive time is something I've been really interested in. And if you go on to the next slide, this was a show that was supposed to open in March that was closed due to the pandemic. This was a show that Ezra actually curated. And in the show, I was showing the Resilience Journal, which is on the right in a little wooden frame. So yeah, originally this was something that I would do, in my own time and was something very private, but it became very clear that, this personal journal of mine was something that could actually be an opening point for discussion and an opening point for figuring out ways of talking about pain and illness. So yeah, that's why it was incorporated into the show. And on the left of that wooden frame is another wooden frame with a wooden sculpture, which is essentially the same visualization, but cut into a piece of wood. And yeah, I'm really interested in finding the textual and the visual and sculpture language for abstract experiences like pain and medical trauma. And if you go onto the next slide, I have this GIF playing. I've been exploring disability aesthetics in digital media and creating performances that don't adhere to normative standards of performativity and challenge the way we use technology. So this GIF is a moment in a performance entitled Glitchuals by me, Polena Keke Brown, and Kevin Gotkin. So yeah, thinking about the glitch as inherently being a disability aesthetic and how the performance pays homage to the crip ritual of being together through the internet, transcending time, space, and borders through digital tools. And yeah, just like wanted to reiterate how, you know, digital and virtual space has long been a place of crip wisdom, joy, and community gathering. So this GIF is of multiple windows open in a computer desktop. It is composed of windows of two dancers. The dancers perform in their rooms, lighting candles, washing their hands, offering fruits to the camera. There is a spinning rainbow wheel in the center. The image distorts into a liquid-like glitch. So yeah, that's like a little bit of my work, and I'm really excited to introduce Danilo, who will be sharing some of their work next.
Thanks, Yo-Yo, and thanks all for being here. I'm so glad to share this space with everybody. My name is Danilo. My pronouns are he and they, and I am a brown person sitting in my bedroom across the hall from Ezra's bedroom, in a room with pink walls. Beside me is a black shelf holding a postcard by Jenny Holzer reading "Words Tend to Be Inadequate," a plant, and a small painting by my friend Bix Archer. I am also wearing a black turtleneck and I have a black mustache, black hair, and thin blue glasses, round glasses. And I'm wearing earrings and a necklace with sort of cosmic inspired details borrowed from my partner's collection. And I wanted to share a few sort of pandemic era projects I'm really proud of and excited about, and that sort of touch upon some of the continued ways that each of us work in our own individual practice, but most importantly, I think, collaboratively. And so this first slide has an image of a painting by Amaryllis de Jesus Molesky, and it is featured in the upcoming show, Even There Are Stars. The painting is this celestial, starry, fluid composition with limbs and heads between mountains, moons, mouths, and hands. Different celestial elements, along with shades of pastels, pink and green and purple in gradient, and a text that reads, "Even there are stars." So for this exhibition, which was originally planned for May and is now going to be opening in January at Q Art Foundation, I was selected to write to contribute to the catalog for the exhibition before it was mounted, and working with my mentor Jillian, we sort of discussed this wish to both embody the ethos of the exhibition, which is about queer and trans and brown and femme futures and futurity. And so how do you embody that ethos in a piece of writing? and also to sort of meet both of my practices in the middle. So I definitely consider myself a poet first, but are often also writing art criticism. So what does it mean to sort of ignore any sort of difference between poetry and prose, between description and analysis, which was definitely something that I was thinking a lot about with this project, with Ezra, Noah, and Yo-Yo. And so with this essay, it sort of allowed me a space to both to collaborate with my own practices even, and to see and to embody the sort of queerness and the expansiveness that the artists in the show were embodying themselves in the work. And so the next slide is another sort of collaboration. This is a screenshot of an Instagram post by T.K. Smith, and it is a proof layout of the upcoming issue of Art Papers. And you see like mostly 4 pages of the publication fully visible, and little bits of 2 on the side as well. And you see Instagram comments and captions on the right-hand side. And the pages of the publication are in shades of brown. And one of the pages has 2 titles, one of which reads "In the Body, Feel Like It," and the other one reads "A Living Presence." So those 2 titles are "In the Body, Feel Like It" is a poem that I wrote, and "A Living Presence" is an essay by my friend Rael Christian. And we, in collaboration, wanted to have this sort of conversation between a poem and an essay and Felix Gonzalez Torres's work, particularly his billboards, and particularly in the context of this upcoming issue, which is around monuments, and reading his work as monuments as well as memorials. And sort of, she really explores those 2 ideas in her essay. But in this collaboration, we felt really strongly about not providing a hierarchy for the reader between the poem and the essay and the works of art, but instead consider them sort of equal entry points and entry points always in conversation with each other, which is another sort of approach that you'll see in how we were approaching this Shed Commission. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. It'll be out soon. And it was, for me, it's always obvious that my best work is done with others. And I just get really excited to sort of ignore the one author sort of myth, and sort of ignore any sort of clean boundaries between genre or medium and play and queer and poke. And the last project that I'll share, so these are 2 images. They're screenshots from a virtual exhibition entitled "A Language for Intimacy." They both have a Black background, and this exhibition paired 9 artists with 9 writers and had them respond to each other's work. And the image on the left contains the text "Jesse Chun," which is the artist that I was paired with and a friend, with writing by Danilo Machado. And you see an image of a hanging adapted speaker, which is representative of the sound piece that Jesse had in the exhibition. And on the bottom, you see the title, "A Language for Intimacy." On the right hand is another image which shows a still from her.
Can I just pause us for 1 second while we switch interpreters? Okay, thanks, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So the image on the right contains a still from her video workbook, and then a snippet of the poem that I wrote called ESL. And the subtitle of the poem is For, After, and For, and With Jesse Chun. And I felt really strongly about that connection, because I really saw it as a conversation and a collaboration. And the poem also functioned both, like I sort of refused a line between an analysis or a response to the work and a description of it. And sort of I think you'll see some of that in this commission as well. And just to end, I'll read these first two stanzas from the poem, which are also visible on the slide, but perhaps slightly small. So I read them. Forced delineation structure, twitched, militant presence, precincts, past, future, fill in blanks, worksheet correctives, sense, sensed, language. Thank you. I'm excited to continue the conversation.
Kevin, would you mind going to the next slide? Thank you. So this is an original, one of our first sketches. It's a digital layout sketch of the work proposed to the SHED team. So the center image is a video still of a brain MRI scan. It's of my brain, overlaid with a grayscale calendar scroll titled New York City Recovery Index, with dates from March related to the COVID timeline. It is situated on a light peach pink gradient background with 4 squares in each corner of the rectangle, 2 yellow on the left, 1 gray on the top right, and a red square in the bottom right corner, denoting the spaces for animated GIFs or GIFs, the icons. And in between each GIF is text that reads poetic text image descriptions, 8 words, as a placeholder for the poetic descriptions. And as Danilo had mentioned earlier, as we were conceiving of this work, one of the first things we had considered was entry points into the conversation and how all of us as contributing and collaborative artists can as well reflect our equal space in a discussion with the format that we want to present. And so there is no hierarchy of information present. And I think Ezra wanted to mention something quickly before he describes the next slide.
Yeah, this is Ezra speaking. I wanted to, reference there are many ways of engaging with the work. So it has text description, audio description in the video. That's also a poem, and video work, and the backgrounds will be changing over time. And Yo-Yo created the GIF backgrounds, and so all of those also think through like how to engage with the work or where to engage with the work. And for us, we created all this together. So there was not, I did this and that now I'm done and you go this. Every part that we had, we went back to one another to think through this kind of non-hierarchical form of engagement with ideas and concepts and the work. And that for me really comes from thinking through sort of non-Western, non-capitalist lenses of knowledge and how we can engage in what knowledge we prioritize. And I look to the Talmud, which is ancient Jewish rabbinic oral text that has been compiled into text in around 500 CE. But the real way of engagement is there's a central text, but all the text around it is commentary and discursive. And you could enter through the Talmud at any line with any commentary at any point. And so the point for us is really looking to the internet as this mode that offers a sort of non-hierarchical engagement into this. And for us, that was really important in creating an artwork that represented what it means to think through disability as a multiplicity. Next slide. So this is our final slide, and then we can get more into the meat of the discussion. This slide is a screenshot of a video meeting that we recently had with attendees in a grid to the right of the screen, and we're all looking intently at the shared screen, many of us with our hands and fingers resting on chins, lips, and cheeks in a thoughtful and pondering gesture. The larger image here, which our group is looking at, is a draft of phases and the in-betweens as it might appear on the SHED site. It is a green background with a line it is a green background and an overlay of veiny roots spreading. The GIF fills the view of the webpage window. Each of the four corners of the window contains a smaller animated loop, but here it's just a still image. On the top left corner is an empty twin-size bed with crumpled sheets. A portion of the poem to the right reads "New Moon, a Line Sun." At the top right corner of the GIF is a new moon in indigo glowing gold on a red background. Below the moon is a poem that reads "Otherwise obscured, indirect look, firework, pain, highest." Bottom right corner is an animated pale blue figure with thin drawn lines of white and red bursting out of its heart center like a firework. The bottom left corner is a circle gradient with red hues on yellow background, signifying high pain. Between the firework figure and the pulsing circle is a poem that reads, "Outward sparklers burn the earth, ground roots grow." Above the red pulsing gradient and below the bed is a poem that reads, "Bed frame sheets like billboard, like Felix, spirit." In the center of the background GIF is an embedded looped video shifting through different scenes signifying bureaucratic, medical, and environmental views of the COVID pandemic in New York City, along with medical imagery from the brother sick. And here it's an X-ray of two hands viewed from above, palms lay flattened, and the captions on the video read, "X-rays illuminate the bones of two hands." So this is a very static, quick glimpse of one of the 5 times that the work is going to be shifting based on the moon cycles, the major moon cycles throughout the month. And so we're looking to time in very different ways here and through multimodal engagement. Thank you. These are all the slides that we'll be sharing.
This is Kevin speaking. What an amazing tour of each of your art practices, but also the way that we can see the collaborative techniques that bring you all together, right? Like we could trace the ways that each of you come to meet this work. And also what a great teaser for this piece that's coming out in just a few weeks. So I'm just looking at the time. We don't have a ton of time left, but I wonder if maybe you can talk a little bit about what each of you did to contribute to the piece. There was a brief outline there, but it's really an ingenious, iterative, profoundly collaborative piece. And as you said, Ezra, it's not as simple as like, here's my piece and just add it in, right? Each of them respond to each other. And of course, each of them is opening access in a different modality, which is like kind of intra-collaborative, like within the piece. So maybe, and of course, each of those things are inflected by crypt time, crypt space, the particularities of disability aesthetics. So maybe do you want to kind of take an opportunity just to spotlight some of those like examples of how the piece works together?
I'll speak quickly about the maybe aesthetic value of the piece, and then maybe Yo-Yo, you can speak more towards the structural elements of the web design, along with anyone else that would that would contribute something that I'm missing. But when I was thinking about this piece, creating with the other artists, in my mind we were creating our own clock, and there's a way that we begin, personally, that I begin to lose track of time during this pandemic, and I don't know who else has been experiencing that, but there's this really kind of this monumental shift in how I experience time in relation to work, how I experience time in relation to bureaucracy, and how I experience time in relation to being sick and being bedbound. So there are these elements at play where there's this private conception of time, as well as a public, more state-mandated version of time, which I think we explored through phases. We originally, Ezra and I were thinking about the moon as a very organic and natural way to track time, especially in our Jewish heritage, where we look at the moon for our calendar, where our rituals are based around the moon cycles. I think that in creating this piece, each element has its own metronome and its own rhythm that contributes. So the pacing of the video in the center is, one type of rhythm. The GIFs on top, in the top and bottom corners, flicker at different speeds, and the poem is read and also it can be interpreted as a different pace. So there, for me, the modalities of entering the piece also had to do with how you experience time in relation to how we're creating the piece.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, this is Yo-Yo speaking. I feel like I've gained like an intimate knowledge of Ezra and Noni's care rituals, and just like the way that they have amassed numerous photos and videos and data essentially about their experiences going to getting care and moving through medical institutions and moving through New York City during pandemic times. And I've, been collaborating with them for this project for a few months now, and just seeing over time this Google Drive that they've compiled of all of this, like archive of a disabled body, has been a big part of this project in how I've been experiencing it. Seeing as, we don't really get to hang out that often during pandemic times. So yeah, like working with Noni and Ezra and Danilo, it became very apparent that like in this project, we were creating these archives together while also personally experiencing and generating our own archives, and getting a glimpse of each other's archives, and taking video footage from Ezra's COVID tests was interesting, and kind of like collaging that into the piece, and getting intimate glimpses of inside hospital rooms and inside the closed curtains of hospital rooms was just like a very just like intimate way of seeing our bodies and each other. So in thinking about that, I think the ways in which we've been collaborating has been also just like a deep dive into our own experiences of navigating getting care during times of pandemic. And yeah, just like experiencing that through creating the GIFs, and like, taking different pieces from Ezra and Noni's care rituals and also my care rituals, and seeing like where they come together has been really beautiful. There's one set of GIFs that we've created that talks about the natural elements. So a lot of my work is influenced by Taoist philosophy and culture. So one part of Taoist philosophy talks about like the natural elements, like water, earth, fire, air. So we've incorporated that into a set of GIFs. And Ezra and I were talking, and it became very clear that it would be so much more interesting to explore, how water, like what is the disabled form of water? Like what is the element of water, like in disability form? And we were looking through different videos and images that we had, and I came across Ezra's IV drip, and I was like, oh, that's such an interesting visual to represent that element, that natural element. And also, yeah, like going through different videos of like our beds, just thinking about how the bed can also be the element for earth and like the ground that we find ourselves on, as oftentimes the bed is like that grounding space for us. So yeah, like we were just like really trying to like tweak and like figure out ways in which we can create, just like a kind of language and a kind of philosophy around like nature-based ways of engaging with disability. So yeah, I I really also wanted to talk a little bit more about how Danilo's descriptions and poems actually utilize also only 8 words. And I would love for them to talk more about that too.
Yeah, I think like part of the fun and part of the challenge was sort of thinking about ways to have the language of the piece reflect the sort of breaking of all these different binaries and all these different discrete aspects. So it's not, you know, there's a blurred line between the bureaucratic and the celestial, between the descriptive and the analytical, between the sort of read and the scene, and sort of how to make language that both sort of ground, like reflecting some of the groundings of the piece, which sort of was just described, and also how to have language to also like reflect the way that the piece expands and sort of looks to beyond and looks to after and looks to, you know, the post, you know, the post fill in the blank. And so that, and in collaboration with learning all more about these images, and also to having some like personal intimacy to these spaces, whether direct or indirect. There's a scene that takes place like around our corner and at the hospital that we can view from our apartment window. So sort of matching those different kinds of intimacies in the language as well.
So this is Kevin. I am heartbroken to say we have to wrap up, but I just want to signal before we go how amazing it is. We had a few questions come in before the event, and you've kind of answered all of them in amazing ways. And I just want to signal them in case it's, you know, kind of fodder for contemplation when the piece debuts. But one of them was about what gets lost because of ableism. You know, what does ableism preclude? And I think this work and what you've talked about is kind of a direct response to that question. Another was about what kinds of intimacies have you been able to cultivate, especially in pandemic times? Amazing that you also seem to directly, you know, name and illustrate some of those. And the last question was about how we might use the economic theory of the commons to think about ecologies of access. So maybe we just kind of like tuck those away as you know, little prompts for contemplation when we get to see this work in just a few weeks. I just want to say thank you to each of you. It is just, I learned so much from you. I'm so excited to see this piece go live. So thanks for having me and the honor of moderating this event. And now I will hand it back to Solana to close us out.
Thank you. Thank you everyone so much. Thank you, Kevin, for your wonderful moderation. Thank you, Ezra, Noah, Yo-Yo, and Danilo, for sharing your knowledge, for sharing your sensitivity, your sense of collaboration, which is, as you all mentioned, so unique and so special. And it has been such a pleasure to be collaborating with you on this project for so many months, and again, learned so much from you all. I want to remind everyone that Faces and the In-Betweens will debut on our website on January 13th and will evolve throughout February 11th. So I'm hoping that you can all come back and see it through its different phases. I'm hoping that you can also come to our website, thechet.org, to catch all the other 11 up-close commissions. I think we're looking at that also as kind of an archive of these times that have shifted so much on us, and we've shifted with them. And to me, it's always interesting to go back to some of the first ones and see they're very reflective of their time because they're all new works. I want to thank all of you who joined us. I want to thank once again our supporters, M&T Banks, the Stavros Niarchos Foundation, and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, as well as the Lizzie and Jonathan Tisch Commissioning Fund and the Shed Commissioners, and the Howard Gilman Foundation, again, for providing the Zoom platform that we used on this evening's conversation. I invite you all to join us tomorrow at 2 p.m. To watch a conversation between Misty Copeland and Alex Putz. And I hope you will have a great end of this very, very challenging year. I want to wish everyone some resting and restorative time. I've learned not only from this artist, but from my artistic community that this is time, to meditate on abundance and well-being, and on this collectivity of people that is so special. So see you all at the Shed. Come see our Howardina Pindell exhibition through April. We have some public programs and conversations around her coming up as well. And see you very soon. Thank you all so much for your participation.